So what are the dangers of using marijuana?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Gives you like a rapid heartbeat.
Smoker's cough.
I'm sure it has some effect on your brain function, memory.
I don't know, is there something unhealthy about moving slowly?
It's not good for you.
You're not fully conscientious of what you're doing.
Thicken some membranes in your brain or something.
Well, it's been science. I'm being told it's been scientifically proven that marijuana kills your brain cells.
Ah oui, ça y est, on y vient. La rengaine classique, la marijuana détruit vos neurones.
I thought the same thing. You know, I didn't start smoking pot until about 5 years ago. I thought pot made you stupid. You know, I bought into it just as much as anybody did. I realized when I was like 30 years old that I was tricked. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
1974. L'étude sur la santé des docteurs Heath et Tulan. Ronald Reagan annonce de sources fiables que l'utilisation de la marijuana endommage le cerveau de façon permanente. Des singes à qui on a administré 30 joints par jour ont vu leurs cellules cérébrales s'atrophier et sont morts 90 jours plus tard. Le décompte des cellules du cerveau ont permis de déterminer l'endommagement cérébral chez les singes forcés à fumer et chez ceux qui n'avaient pas fumé. Et cette étude est devenue la base du raisonnement sur lequel les gouvernements successifs et d'autres groupes d'intérêt spécialisés de pression, les fameux lobbies, se sont appuyés et s'appuient donc toujours pour établir que la marijuana entraînerait des lésions cérébrales irréversibles. Mais voilà, ce qu'ils se sont bien gardés de vous dire, c'est qu'après 6 années de réclamation, la méthodologie de l'étude en question a fini par être révélée. Et il s'avère qu'au lieu d'administrer 30 joints par jour pendant 1 an, comme annoncé officiellement, le docteur Heath a utilisé une méthode qui consistait à pomper 63 joints de force à travers un masque à gaz en 5 minutes et pendant 3 mois seulement.
They suffocated the monkeys. What they did is they put these gas masks basically on their face and they pumped pot into it, but without additional oxygen. So after X amount of time, the brain shut down. Well, if you suffocate, the first thing that's going to happen is your brain cells are going to die with lack of oxygen. So what they did is they suffocated the monkey, showed all these dead brain cells, and then went on to associate it by saying that cannabis use causes your brain cells to die. And how many people, not knowing the origin of the study, have gone on to quote it and re-quote it. And now people believe it.
D'autres études ont démontré depuis qu'il n'y a absolument aucun signe de dommage aux cellules cérébrales. En 2005, une nouvelle étude a même suggéré que la marijuana stimulerait la croissance de ces mêmes cellules. Mais cette étude n'a évidemment pas reçu la même attention. On imagine également souvent que la marijuana entraîne le cancer du poumon. Qu'en est-il?
In the 1999 study by the Institute of Medicine that was paid for by the United States government, they had to use words like may and should cause cancer.
We've been hearing for years them trying to say that it causes lung cancer, and we say, really, that's interesting because you can't even show us one case of cancer being caused by cannabis use alone.
You definitely have to do it moderately because it does paralyze the cilia, but if it's not radioactive, you're probably not going to get cancer from it.
Smoking can be harmful because of the properties of smoke.
Not as a result of anything in the cannabis plant, but because they're intaking heated plant matter into their lungs.
People said, well, you don't know, we haven't been smoking it long enough. Look what happened with cigarettes. We've had about 4 decades, or more than 4 decades of experience. If this was going to show up, it should have shown up by now.
Finally, a study came out just in the last month verifying that cannabis smoke does not cause cancer. It's different than nicotine. And the elements in the tobacco smoke do cause cancer, and the elements in the marijuana don't.
There's no cases of marijuana-only smokers getting brown lung syndrome. There's no cases of marijuana-only smokers getting emphysema. Strange for a plant that's so dangerous. How come none of that?
Marijuana is as bad for you or worse than tobacco? Impossible. If they had the evidence, they'd be putting emaciated bodies or emphysema, lung cancer, black lungs, they would be parading them throughout the media. They don't have one. Yet people somehow or other think that it might cause the same thing.
Le fait est que si on regarde le nombre de morts dues aux différentes substances psychotropes, on obtient un résultat pour le moins différent. L'assassin mondial public numéro 1, qui devance le sida, l'héroïne, le crack, la cocaïne, l'alcool, les accidents de voiture, les feux, les meurtres, réunis.
Wait for it.
Le tabac.
That's a nasty, dirty thing to say, son. A lovely, pure white cigarette causing cancer. It gets me right here.
Avec une moyenne de 430 000 morts par an, et si on considère que c'est le tueur public numéro 1, il est intéressant de savoir que le tabac reçoit des subventions du gouvernement et qu'il est cultivé avec des fertilisants radioactifs. Le numéro 2 sur la liste, Si on exclut une mauvaise alimentation et l'inactivité physique avec plus de 85 000 morts par an,
Wait for it.
l'alcool. Et si on s'aventure bien plus bas sur cette liste, il y en a d'autres qui pourraient bien vous surprendre. La caféine y figure avec plus de 10 000 morts par an, et certains de nos remèdes les plus populaires, tels que l'aspirine, y figurent également avec plus de 7 500 morts à son actif chaque année. Et la marijuana dans tout ça? Quels sont les chiffres alarmants dont nous disposons?
I don't know. 50,000? 250,000?
300,000? For marijuana, I'd probably say then 80,000.
I would say it would be hundreds of billions.
Vous êtes prêts? Voilà les chiffres.
There are no deaths from cannabis use anywhere. You can't find one.
In 10,000 years of known use of marijuana, there's never been a single death attributed to marijuana. There's 400,000 deaths in America alone every year that are directly attributed to tobacco.
I've heard that you have to smoke something like 15,000 joints in 20 minutes to get a toxic amount of delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. I challenge anybody to do that.
And even in the animal studies where people have loaded the animals up with doses that would be hundreds of times what a human could possibly be exposed to, no, the animals don't die. The LD50 seems to be astronomical.
I mean, you can die from ingesting too much aspirin. You can die from ingesting too much coffee.
The drug warriors who say we have to protect society, save these people, are being just a little bit disingenuous.
Pas une seule université ou institut médical n'a jamais répertorié une seule mort directement attribuée à la marijuana. Toutefois, on peut légitimement avancer d'autres raisons d'en avoir peur. Son caractère addictif par exemple. Il est vrai qu'il y a actuellement plus d'adolescents en clinique pour des problèmes d'addiction relatifs à l'usage du cannabis que pour n'importe quelle autre substance sur la planète, ce qui a priori tendrait à confirmer que cette substance serait effectivement la plus addictive qui soit.
It's undoubtedly true that there are more teenagers and kids in treatment for marijuana than all the other drugs combined. What the DEA never tells you is why that's true.
A kid is caught possessing or smoking marijuana. He's taken to court. He's given a choice. Either you some horrible penalty, or you go to a treatment center. Obviously chooses to go to treatment, and goes to treatment there, he's considered an addict.
But then the DEA gets to point to that stat and say, look at all these kids in treatment for marijuana. God, it must be because today's marijuana is not the marijuana that your parents were smoking.
As far as I understand, only 3% of the people in treatment for marijuana are there voluntarily. The other 97% were told to by their guardian or told to by a judge. So you can choose between jail or treatment. And a lot of people choose treatment.
It provides no basis for speaking about addiction. Anybody who is at all sophisticated about marijuana would rate them the way two researchers were asked to rate drugs in order of addiction. Nicotine was 1, alcohol was 2, then heroin, then cocaine, then coffee, and then marijuana. There may have been a couple of other drugs, but marijuana was at the very bottom, below coffee.
This narcotic, unlike the opiates, the synthetics, and cocaine, is non-addictive.
What do you mean by non-addictive?
By non-addictive, it is meant that the user of marijuana, when deprived of the drug, will not experience the agonies of withdrawal. It is habituating, but its use can be discontinued.
Then what is its danger?
It's used as a scapegoat for covering up underlying problems in people, especially young people. Here I am. Don't ignore me.
If you use marijuana on a daily basis for a year or so, and you stop using it, you're going to notice some differences, but nothing like the kind of withdrawal people will experience in withdrawing from either tobacco or heroin.
Mais pourquoi le gouvernement voudrait-il publier une telle statistique? Nous verrons pourquoi plus tard. La théorie de l'escalade.
Is marijuana a gateway drug?
Yes, I think it is.
Yeah,
I don't exactly know why, but I know it is.
It opens a doorway to other drugs. It makes you want to experience more. It makes you feel good. Yeah.
People want to experience something else and, have I guess, more dreams.
Its greatest danger lies in the fact that it is a stepping stone to the harder drugs, such as morphine and heroin.
That's why there are people that want to legalize marijuana.
They figure if they can get the young people of this country onto hard drugs, they can destroy your generation, or in this generation.
You know, in the days of Harry Anslinger, it was called the stepping stone hypothesis. If you stepped on this stone, marijuana, you were bound and determined to go on to the next stone, which would be one of the so-called hard drugs.
Every time it's been studied and looked at and so on, they have never ever found that there's certainly nothing in marijuana that makes you want to go to anything else.
There's no inherent psychopharmacological property of the drug which pushes one toward another drug.
I drink alcohol. That's my drug of choice. It could be said I started on milk. I mean, this is crazy. If I use marijuana, why does that automatically make me a candidate to black tar heroin? It's a nonsensical argument.
En fait, seulement un utilisateur sur 104 utilisera de la cocaïne et moins d'une personne de l'héroïne.
The black market throws the dealers of soft drugs together with the dealer of hard drugs.
So if you have a black market and you have a dealer that's dealing in marijuana and LSD and everything else, and the dealer might say to you, hey, you want to try something stronger? Well, in that sense, because of the black market, because of prohibition, people may be more susceptible to seeing these other drugs and being willing to try these other drugs.
And so what you see is that there is a gateway effect. But it's a gateway effect caused by prohibition and the blending of the hard and soft drug markets.
Qu'est-ce qu'on pourrait rajouter? Ah oui, quid de la paresse? Vous n'allez pas être utile à la société si vous fumez du cannabis. Mais si c'est vrai, il y a environ 50 millions de consommateurs aux États-Unis et plus de la moitié de la population canadienne a essayé. Mais ces deux sociétés m'ont l'air pourtant de plutôt prospérer. Et regardez un peu qui sont certains de ces plus illustres consommateurs.
Steve Jobs developed Apple Computer smoking pot. Ted Turner developed CNN News smoking pot. Still smokes a joint every day. You go through every musician you like, from the Rolling Stones to the Beatles to Led Zeppelin, they all smoke pot.
Snoop Dogg, Willie Nelson.
Virtually every presidential candidate has now copped to using marijuana at some time in his or her life.
A few times in the Army, I tried marijuana. It was not a significant part of my life.
I had a senior law enforcement official tell me that in his judgment, up to a quarter of the White House staff when they first came in had used drugs in the last 4 or 5 years.
The people that have personality problems and the people that are going to be lazy and going to lose their job, they're going to lose their job anyway. They're not losing their job because of marijuana. That's just a lie. People say, well, you can abuse marijuana. Well, shit, you can abuse cheeseburgers too. You know, you don't go around closing Burger King because you can abuse something. I can take a fucking fork and jam it in my eyeballs. That mean forks should be illegal? You know, I could jump off a bridge. Should we outlaw bridges? Let's nerf the world.